Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Business Line Podcast. My name is Brian.
And you know my name. It's Manny.
That's Manny. Hey, we're super excited to talk about our guest today. We're going to have a lot of fun. Our guest is Chris Joyce. He's got over 23,000 LinkedIn followers. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Gusher. Gusher is a simple, quick, and easy way to create and build a startup without the need for investors and without the need for capital. How in the world do they do that? Because you normally think that's impossible. Gusher helps entrepreneurs to create and launch startups using performance-based equity. We're going to learn all about that in our meeting today with Chris. Everything from tech to media to health to design, finance, gaming, you name it, Gusher can help folks get their startup off the ground.
Yeah, and he is a founder of 24 companies and counting. His products have been sold in more than 11,000 stores in 23 countries. He has users of his tech products in 148 countries across the globe. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. So he's got companies running into the same issue over and over. The best ideas that entrepreneurs are not having and getting the funding they need. So he's all about connecting the people with the ideas with the people that they need to get those ideas off the ground.
Yeah.
So should we bring him in?
Oh, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
go time?
Yeah.
All right, let's bring in Chris. How you doing, bud? Manny brought a cricket bat in. I don't know. The wide angle camera can probably see it, but
Yeah,
don't
maybe,
worry.
yeah.
Don't worry. Okay, let's get rolling.
Do it up.
So Chris, introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about what you're doing right now. But what I can't wait to hear about is kind of, the old times, where you started.
How you started your...
Sure. I'm Chris Joyce. I'm founder and CEO of Gusher. I'm founder and CEO also of more than 24 other companies in all different industries, everything from consumer goods, manufacturing, SaaS, fintech, medical devices, you name it. My products have been sold across the globe, in pretty much every damn country. I've got users, and that's about me in a nutshell, the quick version of it. I start companies, start a lot of them.
Start companies. Now, I doubt you came out of the womb starting companies, but maybe really close to that.
Yeah.
So tell us about the early days. How long have you been in this game? When did you get started in the world of, what was your first, let's do this. What was your first job?
Sure. Well, my first deal was actually when I was 6 years old, and I kid you not.
Okay.
I had a Spider-Man comic book. I remember it to this day. I can't remember the number of the Spider-Man comic book, but in the back they had, basically the equivalent of a classified ad section. And there was a biz op in there that said, send in $5 and get 50 packs of burpee seeds. And burpee seeds were like watermelon seeds, sunflower seeds, flowers. And then I sold those door to door for $1 a piece on an Air Force base, grossed $50, netted 45, and I was off to the races. You can't beat that.
No, you can't. You sound like, well, I got to tell you this too. So similar story, my daughter, Aria, who's 10 now, but she started doing this at about 8.5, but at about five, or really 3, we could tell she could draw. Now we found out a few years later, she's fully dyslexic. Even at this time, we've got a tutor really trying to get her into the reading, just because it's so important in life, but she's incredibly artistic. A couple years back, she found clay. She started playing around with clay, and then she's spending hours a day. Before, I guarantee she's already got her 10,000 hours in. Before you know it, she's making these small little intricate creatures and things, and they look amazing, like something you'd buy at a store.
Yeah.
So she starts making them into earrings, and she starts making them into necklaces, and she's wearing them. And I'm like, hon, you should be showing these to people. Before you know it, she's putting stuff on mom's Facebook page, and people are requesting. So she did a craft fair this year, made a few $100, and she donates half of everything she makes to Down syndrome charities because our other daughter has Down syndrome. But
sure,
man, she is a little firecracker. Like I can't get her to waste time anymore like any other kid. She's in the clubhouse I built for her every day in the backyard for 3 to 4 hours making inventory.
And what's great about that is you didn't have to pull her up the mountain. You weren't forcing her to do that in any way, shape, or fashion. So it just kind of took off naturally.
Yep.
And that's what you cultivate. That's the way you do it.
And, with my son, he's super jealous. He's like, Dad, I'm useless. I got nothing I'm good at. I want to be good at, so he's like trying to be good at other things. What if grandma shows me how to crochet? I go, buddy, if you want to crochet and think you're going to make some money, go for it. That lasted 5 minutes,
With my kids, it was a little bit different. So my youngest, he was 6 also, all right, 6, 7. And it was right before COVID. And he had, not kind of similar to your daughter, but not. He decided to make these sand sculptures. But instead, the type that's like, the micro sand that kind of forms and sticks to itself. So he ended up taking a mold, going ahead and just stamping them out, putting them on a table. He went out front in the driveway, just stayed there at the table for a couple hours until somebody finally came by, gave him money for it. And then sure enough, the other brothers jump in. They start bringing out other product. They start making signage. They do everything else. Just like a normal business, the first person has to sit out there a long time themselves. And then sure enough, it was a viable thing. And they've done it a couple times. Just a couple of weeks ago, my youngest son, again, who's now 9 or 10, he went ahead and just did a lemonade stand, a basic little thing. But the little effort grossed $200 in like an hour and a half.
Right.
$200 in an hour and a half.
Yeah. They got the flywheels going. That's what that's what I say. I was talking to Manny about that the other day. Remember, Manny, I told you about the flywheel concept. Takes a lot of time and energy to get it rolling, but 100%. Not near as much to keep it going. Cool. Okay. So you started at 6, got your first deal, closed your first deal. Good job. Started drinking coffee right after that. And then
I actually just quit coffee recently, just an FYI.
Did you?
About 8-9 weeks ago. The hardest thing ever.
So are you done with caffeine?
I'm done with caffeine. Yeah.
How do you feel? I heard
it was hell for the first 2 weeks. I mean, it was headaches, everything else. But I was like, I never used to drink coffee in my 20s or anything else. I never needed it for energy. I'm like, why the hell am I drinking this now? So I just stopped cold turkey.
So where are you at now?
With coffee?
Well, in general, like feeling like I've listened to some people talk about how there's it's just a kind of a different situation without.
Well, it was basically I used it as a pre-workout. I used it, throughout the day. I mean, I had 10 cups of coffee a day. Stopping caffeine, for me, cold turkey, that was really rough. It dropped my strength levels by about 20%. It took about 6-8 weeks to get the strength levels back, but emotional state just completely stable. There's no big ups and downs. It's just very smooth, very smooth.
Cool. I've thought about that a lot because it's not that like I like it, but I don't like to depend on anything either. So
it's really weird not having that ritual in the morning. Right? So it's like you actually physically miss it. I don't mean just the withdrawals. I mean that, hey, you've got a warm cup of coffee, or hey, it's a cold morning and you have that cup of coffee there to start your day.
Yeah. I remember years ago, I was drinking coffee heavy and I weaned back and I went back to green tea. That's what I was doing because it gave me the ritual without the really high levels of caffeine.
Coffee works differently for me. If I have to, I don't drink it, to wake up. Yeah. But I just drink it, okay, it's a morning ritual. But if I want to sleep, if I'm not able to sleep, at night, like the other day, I was up at around 2 o'clock. I watched TV, did something, but still I was not feeling sleepy. At that time, I just, go and grab a black coffee and then I'm sleepy within 15 minutes. It works differently for me, if I want to sleep, I can drink coffee and I can sleep. But if I want to relax and, just do my normal ritual, I can do that, Okay. But anyway, so Chris, so you have opened so many companies, you founded so many companies. So how many companies in total you have founded, and are you still actively working for those?
Sure. I mean, directly myself. I stopped counting at 24. There's been more of them, but literally on our platform, we've got more than 350 companies. So we have equity positions as portfolio companies in more than 350 companies across the globe, every vertical, every type. Everything you can possibly think of. So we create and launch companies almost daily. It's what we physically do. That's our main business, is creating and launching companies.
So creating and launching companies for yourself or for other people?
Well, it's kind of in conjunction. So Gusher itself is what's called a performance-based equity platform. So what we do is people join companies in exchange for performance-based equity. They don't get anything in the company unless the company launches successfully, and we're a performance-based equity player. So we don't get any equity in these companies unless they're able to be successful in the marketplace. So usually what I tell a founder is that imagine that you had $1 million or $2 million in the bank account, and then Gusher that. Because we do it all day, every day. They don't need money. They don't need to have all this money or investment or anything else. We show them how to get to about 10 million in sales revenue using nothing, Zippo, nada. And you don't need anything.
So what's the criteria for these companies to be on Gusher? I mean, this must be
Sure.
some.
Well, you definitely need to have like a C corporation in the U.S. We have a lot of international founders, but you can own a C corporation in the U.S. the way it's done and the legal framework that we had to create with the SEC in the States and everything else. But other than that, what we really do is just in terms of due diligence, we let the market really decide. So one thing we don't do is we don't take on anything that physically harms somebody. So you can't create a landmine company and new type of thing like that on Gusher because we just wouldn't allow that. But when it comes to anything else, it's really a factor of whether or not a founder can attract somebody into their company for performance-based equity. If they can do that, we've got a saying, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, 1 + 1 equals done. Those are the companies that are able to succeed, that are able to go on, able to penetrate the market. Because if you're able to master that pitch to bring on somebody into your idea, you really master the fundamentals of how to sell yourself, of how to present yourself in the company in a certain way. And that's really what you need. You need people that really are buying into the idea at the very beginning stages.
So a guy comes to you with an idea and, they start, you give them your space. So the next step for them is to find people who are, ready to buy their idea and work with them to launch their company, right? This is how it works?
Well, kind of. Think of it like this. So our company, what we do is we provide them applicant flow. We teach them all these different things that actually enable them to do it. There's about 300 plus different micro steps from taking a company from ideation through launch and getting them into the marketplace to where they're actually doing business. But the main thing, the main criteria is the ability to recruit, to tell that story. And the vast majority of people don't know how to do that. And so in the initial stages, our emphasis is really teaching them and helping them do it. We provide the applicant flows. We help figure out what's called the VIM, the vested interest market. Those are the people that have the most to gain from the success or failure of that company. And what you should do is build up your company using VIM. And also the same thing as you go into the future with your initial markets and launches and stuff like that.
So that means, you are looking for serious people, serious entrepreneurs who have really good ideas, who can, launch their company.
Well, believe it or not, you would think that, okay? But the one thing that we've seen is that something that we internally may think, oh, this is a great idea. Oh, this is going to be a home run. Mm-hmm. The second that you bring that human decision making or judgment into the deal itself, almost always we're wrong. So what ends up happening is, and we have another saying about this, bad ideas lead to good ideas. The bad ideas have to be there because that's really the fertilizer for the good ideas. Nobody says and comes up with something and they have this great idea and this wonderful idea. Usually what happens is they have an okay idea. All right. And that okay idea, as they start bringing people that really know what the hell they're doing, starts to take on the idea of being something better, something more. They start refining it. They started making it better. Kind of like my kids in the driveway, where the one kid has an idea, the other kid brings the sign, the other kid brings the table. They start bringing more products. They start determining what sells. It's the same type of thing, just on a different level. So even if a bad idea, it's horrible, it stinks, and I don't fundamentally believe in it, we'll still put it up there because, believe it or not, there are people that may resonate with, and who the hell are we to say? Let the market decide.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, from the idea stage to the launch stage for a company, for an idea, so you help every bit of the way. And how do you make money with that? I have a great idea. I think, I have a great idea, but I'm not able to launch it. I'm not able to buy other people, with my idea, ready to work with me. So it it won't launch. So how do you, and you still help those people. So how do you make money with that?
Think of it this way, okay? So we've helped everything from an 80-year-old grandma in South Africa to 20-year-old Villanova students be able to create and launch companies successfully. And the whole point is that you're not supposed to know this. You're not supposed to know how to do it and the process and everything else. But each company is different, but the same. So meaning that we have a certain process, and it's very process driven as to how to take a company from this ideation, from this raw stage to the following stages to make it a viable product in the marketplace, a viable self-sustaining company in the marketplace. And doing that is something that does involve a lot of hand holding, but that's what our system walks them through. So with the second that a founder actually sees and brings on that one person for performance-based equity, it's like suddenly the light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, oh my God, what you told me is true. This can be done. I didn't need money. And how the hell is this possible? Because it is possible. I had two females. They were great founders. They're creating like a new type of textile, something in the fashion industry. And when they first came into Gusher, they're like, this is total BS. There's no way. I know the industry and and they're telling me the other way it's done. And I'm like, listen, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Follow this step by step. We'll work it through. And sure enough, they didn't just be able to get the company and create the MVP, not minimal viable product, but market viable product. They're able to go ahead and get the financing to go ahead and expand, to do it. And they're about to hit the market and launch. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this actually worked. Basically, and the light bulb went off in their head and they're like, phenomenal. And literally, they were the most negative people. They're on the platform telling me this can't work. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, we've done it hundreds of times. So you're no different.
Yeah, that's interesting. That sounds
So when
great.
it gets to the point where these companies are equitable, are making money, that's where Gusher starts to make a little bit. And that's how you guys...
Well, think of it this way. Like Manny asked me how we make money. I didn't go into that. But basically, we are equity holders in these companies.
Yeah,
so we're very long-term players. We're not here for a quick flip or anything else like that. And we've got one of the fastest growing dog food companies in the world right now. I mean, they're growing more than 30% month over month across the U.S. But a dog food company, you'd say to yourself, my God, this is a capital-intensive industry. This is something that there's been embedded players, entrenched players for more than 100 years. They don't like to give up real estate. They don't like people to come into their territory. And that's the type of thing that we created with them. And sure enough, it's taken off like a rocket. I mean, a year and a half later, they're getting national distribution. They're everywhere. We're not looking for like a paycheck from it right now. We're really creating a very large index of companies that we have ownership in. That's really what we're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So are you a believer, Manny?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a believer now?
Yeah, I want to just open my laptop and apply.
Come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
You don't even need a good idea, Manny. You just need to start. But hear me out. And the reason is that the people don't join companies in the very beginning stages because, oh, you've got a great financial model, and oh, you've got a great business model, and oh yeah, I definitely see it. No, they do it because of you. All right, you. Yep. So in effect, they're buying you. And typically people that join these companies, they're not people that are, let's say, desperate. They're typically people that are at the top of their game. And what they're really looking to do is join something that they have impact on, joining something that they have another horse in the race, becoming part of something that is almost like their shot at the big time. And so they don't have that in their day-to-day job. And so, yeah, they're willing to pull that sled and help pull that sled up the mountain willingly. So long as they believe in the founder and what they're doing. And it's not transactional. It's more like dating. It's more like internet dating.
Yeah.
So, okay, these founders, these guys with ideas, how do you, bring the people who want to work for these founders, together? Okay,
well, let's use the dog food company as an example, all right? So I won't go into detail, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the guy's name is Colin Buckley, the founder. And Colin came to me a while back, and he had this sick dog, all right? And I'll tell this in a story way so that you actually see what the process is. So he went ahead, he has his sick dog, and he brings it to me, and he's had the sick dog, and he goes, takes it to the veterinarian. And the veterinarian said, hey, Colin, put your dog on this dog food. Dog wouldn't eat it. Then put your dog on this other dog food. Dog wouldn't eat it. Puts dog on a third dog food. Dog wouldn't eat it. Dog's dying. The dog is not like some old dog. The dog is like a puppy, all right? So Colin, in desperation, hacks together his dog food, his own dog food, in his kitchen for 2, 3, 4 months. The dog magically comes to life over 3, 4, 5 months. Now, there's a big difference between taking a product that's made in your kitchen that you're giving your dog and making it for mass merchandising and distribution. He came to me and said, hey, I want to start a dog food company. Now, as I said earlier, dog food companies are vicious. It's hard to penetrate that industry. But I said, sure, let's do a dog food company. So he did not listen to me. And he brings in this team of people that have managed $50 million, $100 million, $200 million budgets, companies that you know. And literally the company imploded 6 weeks later. All right. He was a little bit more humble. He then listens to me as to how to build up his next team. His next team, his company's taken off like a rocket. They're penetrating, having national distribution, taking over market share left and right. His second team all had something in common. This is not a trick question. All had something in common. The first team did not. I want you to think like an 8-year-old. Okay? Think like an 8-year-old. Second team all had something in common. The first team did not. It's a dog food company. What do you think they all had in common?
Dog lovers?
Say that?
Dog lovers?
What they did, they dog owners, all right?
Yeah,
But they're more than dog owners. They were dog parents. They didn't have kids. So they were
Right,
dog
so they were
zealots.
all about the dog.
They
life.
ate dog, breed dog, live dog, poop dog. They knew everything about dogs. So for them, they were the vested interest market, the VIM, what we call the VIM. They have the most to gain from the success or failure of that company. And more importantly, there's a shorthand between all the people. So it's not transactional. It's literally something that they get behind passionately. And that makes a difference. And when you put teams together that are made up of them, you have much, much higher success rates than any other type of company.
Okay, Manny, before we go on, I'm just going to plant this little seed because this is what we've been talking about with our company since we started back in 2016. We've always had this goal we're shooting for, and we're getting there, and it's not always a straight line. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of
Never a
backwards,
straight
a little
line.
bit, right? So, but more, it's like we're getting around more people, but think about what we need them in order to get there to create that right model, right? If you think about it,
That's what we have been talking about. But, what I'm interested is, how does Gusher find them?
Yeah. How does it
What's
find
your
them?
process to find them? Bring these two people together, these two, great
hear me
idea
out,
and
hear
them.
me out. So this is the thing.
Cupid.com.
There's two mechanisms. There's organic inbound traffic, meaning that people see the listings. We're indexed all over the place, and people apply based upon the role descriptions and what they say because it talks to them. So those role descriptions are very important. They're not like job descriptions. They're role descriptions. They're explaining really what the company's about, what it is. There's videos that typically go along with it as a founder to see, because the people that you're going to resonate with are much different than the people that I'm going to resonate with most times. So that's very, very key. But also there's another system basically, and it doesn't cost anything. It's basically an outbound system called whale hunting. Okay. Long before there was Gusher, this is the way I used to build up companies on AOL and CompuServe back in the day. If you remember.
Now we're
those
talking.
already.
Now we're
So-
talking.
Yeah, so back then they had membership directories, and there's very specific techniques on how to reach out to go ahead and whale hunt. And you hunt certain people that have certain skill sets in a certain way, and the closing rates are very, very high. And there's another thing that literally just simply asking people to help you, which most people are not comfortable with doing, that in and of itself humanizes you and makes it a hell of a lot faster. I remember I had one company, it ended up becoming the largest of its kind in the world. And I asked the gentleman who became my partner years later why he helped me. And he said, literally, he goes, "You asked for help." He goes, "That's it." And I go, "That's it? That's the only reason?" And this was via email. I never even saw him for the first 3 years of business. And that grew into the largest low carb company in the world. And so I said, why? And he said, just because you asked for it, you need it. So people like to help, and it's just getting them involved. So if and other people are telling you, no, it can't be done or shouldn't be done or wouldn't be done, I'm not sitting here telling you about the 499 food chemists that told me to go F myself, that told me it shouldn't be done, it wouldn't be done, because that's what happened. But there was one guy that actually did say yes. And guess what? He ended up inventing the products, and we created an industry off that. I don't know if you can see the goosebumps on it, but
Yeah, you get all fired up.
Yeah, because that's important. You have to talk to people, and a lot of people, and people don't understand how many people you have to talk to. You have to talk to a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
but you get
my
better.
next question, about Gusher is, like why this cap of only, like US based business? I mean, this is a great idea. What you're doing is
think
really
of it
good.
this way. So it's not only U.S. based. So we have founders across the globe. All right.
Okay.
International founders make up approximately 40% of our companies. Our teams are made up everywhere. So meaning approximately 80% of our teams are made up from people outside the United States, okay? Approximately proportionally, depending. It depends. You can't do it because there's securities laws in different countries. And to make a long story short, it gets extremely complex. We had to, between our alpha version and our beta version, take about 18 months to get that complexity to where we could go ahead and launch and do it the right way. Because our alpha version was just a test to see if it worked. Took off like a rocket, but we took it down for about 15, 18 months to make damn sure we could develop the legal framework to do it. And so that's really why. It's not a simple thing legally in a lot of the countries across the globe.
Yeah. So it could be anywhere, but the incorporations happen.
Incorporation and the launch will happen here in US.
Yeah, but think of it this way. Even if it's the incorporation in the U.S., most times, especially compared to Europe, the creation of a company for an incorporated in the U.S. is dramatically lower. I mean, dramatically lower than the cost that you have when you're creating a corporate structure. You can't use an LLC. It has to be a corporate structure.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we've been talking a while now about Gusher. How did you, I mean, you did a lot of stuff before that. So I'm still interested in kind of the personal journey, the personal story. Take me back to when, let's fast forward a little bit from 6. Let's say you get out of high school. Did you do the whole college thing? And did you get out, do a 9 to 5, say enough of that? I mean, what's the story there?
No, I actually went to NYU. I left Ohio. I grew up in Ohio. I had a ride to NYU. That's basically it in terms of the college. The college itself, though, I went there to actually study Austrian economics because in NYU there was a professor named Israel Kirzner. I read his stuff. He was the top of the game. And so I studied in Austrian economics primarily there. But during college, I never went to class. I became the youngest stockbroker ever at the time. I was 17. I was working for Oppenheimer and Smith Barney. My roommate's dad happened to work at Oppenheimer. He got me a job as a cold caller. I created different calling mechanisms and methods that increased their production by a factor of 3 and parlayed that into a Series 7, Series 63, Series 3. And that was really the last time I had a quote unquote job. I couldn't stand selling other people's stuff. I just couldn't do it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And so we had some other companies that we literally just walked around New York City, put some flyers on cars, and the next month we had 50 grand in business, and that was much more substantial. And we started creating what are called audio tech service bureaus and hubs for voice messaging systems, and that was the first real tech companies I did.
Okay.
So you created so many companies. So what's the idea behind, like Gusher? Why did you create Gusher?
I think it goes really, really way back. The story that I tell is really 2 examples. One, seeing my mom grow up in Ohio, trying to go ahead and cover the roof over our heads on a salary for being a low-level secretary for the government at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Well, that was hard to see. It was hard to see because she always had these brilliant business ideas. In hindsight, that were ahead of the curve. I mean, she was just before her time and she couldn't make it happen. There was no such thing as a venture capital ecosystem in Ohio. I was just back there 3-4 weeks ago. There still isn't in Ohio.
Right.
She was a female in the 80s as I was growing up. So good luck on getting female financing. So it took her a very long time. Now, in her 50s, okay, she made FU money, finally. All right. So that was a good thing. But watching her have that experience was rough. I mean, because for me, it was just the exact opposite. Everything I touched, I was able to do. Literally every company I touched, I was able to create and go. I never had a dead on arrival company or anything else like that. Some didn't go ahead and meet expectations, but I never had trouble doing anything, getting the companies going. So a couple of years ago, I was at a law office that was throwing a venture capital conference, and there was a group of entrepreneurs. It was in Washington, D.C., They didn't look like everyone else. They didn't talk like everyone else. They didn't sound like everyone else. They didn't wear hoodies and attend Stanford. They didn't live in New York, Silicon Valley, or Israel. But their ideas were fucking brilliant. I mean, they were damn brilliant. And they didn't know that their chances of getting venture capital funding was non-existent, because it was non-existent. It wasn't going to happen. And so I said to a couple of my partners, I said, I wonder if there's a way to go ahead and show people what we do, how we build companies, because this is the way we've done it forever. It wasn't as structured as it is. It didn't have the platform in place. We called it finagling. We never needed money at all. We just would finagle those deals. But what we did is we standardized it. We turned it into a process. And I said, hey, I wonder if there's a way to show people how to do this. We created an alpha version, and it just took off like a rocket. And that's basically what we did, just trying to help people.
See, again, the keyword is help.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. You solved the problem.
Yeah.
We think
Big
so.
problem. And how many people, like, think about, Manny, when we sat down back in 2016, and you were, I don't know if you know our story, Chris, but
No, I don't.
Manny,
I tried to look you up. I couldn't get it in time.
yeah, you just got to watch episode 1. We tried to get through some of it. We didn't get through all of it. But anyway, so Manny had about 20 years of owning a company in India doing transcription. So first party, second party, third party for hospitals over here in the US, and for companies like Nuance, big companies, right? Billion-dollar companies. And my background forever was in nonprofit administration. Then I got into for-profit sales, tech, and things like that.
That's two ends of the spectrum.
Right?
Yeah.
We met through a mutual friend and sat down and had lunch. He was looking to start a company in U.S. and not be the third party anymore, and do things in a way, because transcription was dying. And
died. It was almost dead.
It was dead. It's still around, but it's basically dead compared to what it was. I didn't know what it was. So I went back after he kind of pitched me on the idea of starting a transcription company here. I saw that it was dead, but I saw there was one opportunity. Doctors hated using the EHRs. They don't like the software that they have to click in all day long and extra work and all this kind of stuff. I said, if we can solve that problem, we can do this. And then we can go from there. So we did that. We kind of hybrided transcription. That led to remote scribe work, which was really non-existent when we started doing it. Now it's gotten big, which led to revenue cycle management and all the other things that we're doing. We were doing outsource IT the whole time because we knew how to do that. But ultimately, we wanted to save kind of the private practice market. That's, the pendulum is all on the side of the big network hospital now. They went in, they bought up private practice because doctors don't know how to run businesses. Right? They don't.
Not their business.
They know how to administer care. And what happened is, over time, it used to be over here on the private practice, and then you had hospitals, but all the doctors were private and independent, and they weren't doing a good job. Government came in, a lot of paperwork, a lot of tricky stuff. They got really bad at it, stopped making as much money. Hospital said, come work for us. You'll make just as much money, and we'll buy your practice. They did that, and now they're working quotas. Now they got to see 40, 50 people a day. They got to do all this paperwork that they never had to do before, and they hate it. They want to get out. So that's what they're getting out, and they're retiring, and then we're losing good doctors. So this whole time, what we've been doing is trying to solve each piece of the private practice puzzle by giving these services to our clients to get to the point to where we can do it all, and overhead prices can be, 25% of what they were when they were running the business themselves, and just let them have a private practice administer care and let us do the rest. And we just take a part of the earnings. But sitting at that table, every year the past 7 years, it's been like, how do we do this? How do we do this? Let's just get started. Yeah. Let's just get started. And we've made it, but it's slow. And every day we're like, how do we get into this? How do we get into this? Should we be trying to buy companies smaller than us to grow that way? All kinds of stuff. But it's a process of trial and error.
Well, what's been the major league headache for that?
Having enough. We could scale. Having enough money to scale.
Well, no. So imagine this. So take the money out of the component. What would you do with that money? What would you do with it?
People.
So would you bring in bodies, create a platform, and the platform itself, and then be able to scale that way?
Absolutely.
Right. So you don't need that. You need people. That's the whole point of like what we do. So let me just use you as an example. All right. So typically you're going to need a CTO to architect the system, whatever the hell that system is. You're going to need a CMO, even though you may think you have an idea of the market, but you need to go ahead and identify the zealot market to begin with. Who are the people most likely to buy from you from the very beginning? Because the zealot market you need to tap in the very beginning before you're able to create a mainstream product, because those are the people that are then going to end up paying for you to create a mainstream product, okay? So you need a CMO right from the beginning. You need a creative director. Why? To be able to penetrate and say to those people, whatever the voices are, to be able to penetrate those zealot markets. You need front end, back end, UI, UX designers. You need a CFO, not a transactional CFO, but a rainmaker CFO, to be able to be telling your story to investors at the same time as you're building, and so on and so forth. You need those people because what it does is it enables you to leapfrog generational development. So you can go through it in a standard linear way, okay? Like I remember back with the low carb company, I sat there for almost 3 years sleeping on a factory floor trying to get that company going. And then sure enough, finally figured it out. We had some luck, we had certain press, and it just blew out of the doors. I mean, it started flying. But with, creating and building and actually taking that product, you need to have those other people involved, because when they're involved from the beginning, whether it's biz dev, whether it's marketing, whether it is the UI UX from the very beginning, whether it's social for tapping that market and creating the community, even if it's a small community, those all have input on that creation of the product. And that product is fundamentally different than what you would create sitting in your own hole, trying to figure it out and building your way. Because then you listen to the markets and you get feedback. Your goal as the CEO or the founders is to really just talk to the damn market nonstop. That's what you should be doing, talking to the market and just getting other people that are a lot smarter than you to build it. That's what I do. I find people that are
that's what we have been talking about.
Yeah.
And I tell them what I need, and they create it way better than I ever thought could be possible.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we have been talking about. I mean, okay, we could take our company up to a certain level. After that, we need people who are smarter than us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, that are vehemently emotionally invested in the success of that product or service.
Vested interest market.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just it. And like we talk about it, it's
Well, think about it this way, okay? First of all, doctors have money, all right? So there's another VIM like with investor VIM. So at some point in time, a capital raise, if it's down the road, it's easy, all right? You've already got people that already have a God complex and think they know everything, and they have money. So those are the easiest markets to penetrate if you know how to do it. So you already have a ready, willing, and able people that would fund that, because they're going to get the issue. They're going to get the problem.
Yep.
So now you've just got to create something, even in the beginning stages, that creates zealot owners, want them to be part of this in an extreme way. You don't need to create the Taj Mahal. What is the number one pain point that they're dealing with? And just hit that like a hammer over the head,
Yep.
I mean, just attack that one thing.
Yep.
That's what we are trying to do, yeah.
Now I'm thinking.
At least that's what I would say.
Yeah. No, this is it. This is I hope people are listening to this, because even before we met, how many times had I started sitting down and idea after idea, but every time I get excited, I get to the point that point at which you come up against that insurmountable object of thinking, well, that's the extent of my knowledge. Now I got to go out and find someone to do this for me, someone to do that for me.
But hear me out. Haven't you ever said to yourself, and maybe it's not everybody, okay? You're dealing with listen, you have a child with Down syndrome, okay?
Yeah.
I've been a volunteer at Special Olympics forever. I can tell you stories. My wife has been too. We met at a special needs camp, everything else, and you'd love all those stories and everything else, okay? But you and I both know that as a parent of a child with Down syndrome, there came a time when you didn't have all this information. You were scared. You didn't know how to operate. You didn't know what to do. You didn't know what the next steps were. You had days where you wanted to rip your hair out or cry because you didn't know what to do. Well, guess what? It's the same damn thing as being a founder. The exact same thing. That's all it is. So you just jump into it, you do it. And because you're a human being with a brain, the universe has already given you all the tools that you need. You just have to go use them and trust life. That's what it is. Trust life.
Yeah. Yep. Use your brain, Manny. I tell him that every day.
Sorry, I should shut up. I'm on my pulpit.
No, I want people, with bigger brains,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
smarter brains.
gosh, now I'm all fired up. I'm all sweaty.
I just want to
I feel like
relax now.
somebody turned up the thermostat. I just want to go start a new business. I'm not joking. I got the juices are flowing. No, I can remember. I think I've told you this story years ago. This is probably 2008, 2009-ish. I was working for the Boy Scouts of America. I was a district executive, but I was fed up. I was fed up with kind of but I just kind of opened my eyes to kind of the possibilities of stuff. I told Manny, I read this book. Actually, I listened to the book Think and Grow Rich a bunch. It totally shifted my mindset about possibilities.
Sure.
And I started coming up with plans, right? A positive mental attitude, started about thinking things I could do, and things just started growing. And I had this idea, like, I was getting into shape. I was doing it in a different way. I was like, I can start something. So I literally I had paper all over the place, but I planned out from $0 to $4 billion within 2 years, how it was going to be done, how the network was going to be built, who was going to be doing what, how much, what they had to be doing in different markets. And I did all this. And the sad thing is I can't tell you why I stopped. I think it might've been, I went to a meeting. I met with a small business investment, organization in my local community and be like, okay, here's what I need to get this part of the wheel turning. They're like, nope. Did you do this? Did you do this market research? Have you done? Like, yeah, I did all that, but it was just like this blunt. And had I been like, I'm going to sign up for Gusher.
Yeah.
So listen, when I was 9 years old, I remember literally 9 years old. All right. I created this great new idea for a car brake. It wasn't great, right? But I created this great new idea for a car brake. I drew it out, did everything else. I took it to my mom, and my mom said, hey, that's great. That's awesome. Why don't you go tell your stepfather? Now, my stepfather was an electrical engineer, all right? And so, I went to go show it to my stepfather. I didn't want to because I really didn't like the guy. But literally, I went ahead and showed him my drawing and everything else. And sure enough, he shit on it. He shit on it so horribly, so badly. It made such an impression. And, my gut wasn't to go ahead and shrink down and say, oh, yeah, you're right. My gut was to tell him to go F off because I don't know why, but I'm wired that way. And so I just said, screw you. No, F off. And I was 9 years old. I probably shouldn't have said that and done everything else. But that's what I did. And so, when it comes down to the ideas in your head, maybe they're not viable. Maybe there's all these other reasons why you shouldn't do it. But I tend to think that those ideas that even they are crappy and whatever else, those, and I said it earlier, those are the ones that lead to the mind. They lead to the good stuff. That is the path.
You're right.
I think that's literally what we're given as human beings, as a gift. That stuff that when you look in the mirror and you think about that idea and you smile, that's important. That's really important. When you go to bed thinking about that idea, that's important. When you wake up thinking about the idea or you're in the bathroom, it's important. That's us letting out our potential. That's the screaming. It's our essence to get out. And so that's what you should be doing. Going ahead and letting that potential out, fulfilling it. And if it fails, it fails. You tried it. So what?
Right. Yep. That's right. Well, hell.
Yeah, I like you. I like your enthusiasm. Like the way you are talking, like it's like, I don't want to sit here. I just want to, go out and sit on my computer and start something new.
Yep.
Well, listen to this. So I had a founder 2 weeks ago call me in New York. All right. He's from South Africa, another South African deal. I don't know how you get this. So from South Africa, he's from South Africa, but he was in New York City. He was actually an hour outside of New York City. So he goes ahead and said, Chris, I'm stuck at a train station because we were supposed to meet in Midtown because I'm down in Philly, but I was going up for the day because we had a lot of deals, everything else, financings and stuff going on. And I said, well, what's going on? He goes, well, I can't get my funds. My funds have been frozen. I can't access my funds. So I said, okay, well, hold up. And we ended up Venmoing him, $100 or whatever the hell, just for him to get into the city. He comes into the city. Later, I found out the story. He's in the U.S. He's bouncing from city to city, Atlanta, San Francisco, New York, doing whatever. He did it all with $0 because he fundamentally believes that his ability to get that deal done, and he does, he's cranking, is able to be done because he's here, put on earth to get this idea out there. He fundamentally believes it. And literally, he's not on the street. He has houses over his head. He's got food. He's got everything going. He came here with nothing. I mean, nothing. He's got his team. He's going. He's doing it. He just told me he got a seed investor for the next round for him doing it in a formal way. So he's good to go. Trust life. People find it so hard to trust life.
Get after it. And getting kicked in the teeth is part of it. I mean, so many people avoid it. You know, I learned a while ago that whole line of comfort and stress, and everybody avoids stress. But there's that part right above stress, below like distress, like you're tearing up things. There's that eustress level, like that's where you want to live. Like you want to live there. You want to live in an uncomfortable place because that's the only place you grow. Like,
we call it fun comfortable because it's a bitch. I mean, it's a furnace. But think about it. You go into a furnace, you either turn to ash or you anneal and you become hard and you turn into something else. I mean, something stronger, something better.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, you
got to do the difficult shit. You got to do the hard shit.
Yeah. Yep. The way I think about stress, I mean, I don't think stress as a stress. I mean, every stress is a challenge for me.
Okay.
Right. You know, that's how, you know, like you overcome things, you know, like, but people over here, you know, like, or, you know, everywhere else, you know.
Well, everybody seeks comfort. That's what they're seeking comfort. And that's stress. The wrong mentality.
Yeah. If you think of it as a challenge that you have to overcome, you know, like you can overcome anything and you won't be stressed.
But Manny, I also think that comes from overthinking it. I fundamentally believe that people would be way better off that when they're making a decision, if they made that decision once and then never visited it again. Meaning that, okay, you made the effort, Brian, or a decision to start that company. And then you got shot down by somebody else and they started putting doubt in your head and you started listening to those voices. The fact of the matter is, if you had a philosophy that was, well, I made this decision, I'm going down this road, doesn't matter what happens to me, we're going to see where the hell it leads, that then you would have found out, you know?
Yep. And that's like, my mentality now. My mentality is literally doesn't matter. Yeah, we didn't make it, doesn't matter. Moving on, doesn't matter, let's go. You know, they didn't call. Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, you know what? They didn't show up for it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're going to win anyway. That's it. Doesn't matter.
100%.
Yep. All right. Jeez, man. I'm all fired up. I don't even want to do this podcast anymore. I tell you what. Oh, you know what? I'm going to bring up the topic that I brought up before you came on. So I was listening to Patrick Bet-David. You heard of him?
No.
He has a podcast. He's this kind of person, right? He came over here to the States young from Iran, started a insurance company, sold it for hundreds of millions of dollars, and now he's started this media company. Really cool guy, really cool story. But he was talking about, so the whole little short snip on YouTube was that, you know, an entrepreneur in India had kind of put out there via either social, he had some sort of influence on a lot of people over there, but that if India is going to become a major economic power and surpass like the Chinas and stuff like that in production and things, that they need to consider moving from like a 40 to 40 some odd hour work week to a 70-hour work week. And so the top of the discussion was, you know, some people are going to get fired up, people who really like to work and like, hey, get after it as long as it takes. And then you're going to have the other people who are like, oh, but you're going to hurt their lifestyle and it's going to be bad for their mental health and, you know, this, that, or the other thing. And I tend to disagree with those guys talking about, hey, your mental health is going to be just fine if you're busy and working hard and you're tired when you get home, you stay out of trouble, you get home, you fall into the house, fall asleep, wake back up, get after it again. And if you know that you're making traction.
Yeah, you know, like right now the divorce rate maybe like is 10-20% in India. It will be like 60-70% if they just go home and just fall asleep on the bed.
Yeah, you know, but here's the thing about it too. I mean, and I want to get your thought on this, Chris, too, because I tend to follow the Pareto principle or the 10% of everything is crap, basically. Like, you know, most people are only going to do as much in a work environment in their life that's not going to get them fired or killed. You know, okay. There's never going to be a high percentage of people that are going to be overachieving in the first place. It's just the way the world works. But just to put it out there, hey, if you're a country and an economy who wants to, you know, surpass your peers, are you willing to put in the work it's going to take to do that?
I don't know if it's even a willingness to do the work. I think it's fundamentally a philosophy, even going back further. It's how people are taught. So, the question is, what are they taught? How are they taught to learn? And what are they learning? Because, you always hear these generational differences and whatever it may be. Oh, this generation doesn't think like this, and this generation isn't hardworking. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, the fact of the matter is, people have self-respect. People like to do what's right. When you get to a certain age, you can't deal with the games anymore of being a kid. You have to go ahead and earn what you want and what you do. But there's a serious price between paying the price for what you want and doing the absolute minimum just to survive. And if somebody wants to do the absolute minimum just to survive and play video games, God bless them if that's all they want out of life. I can't live that way,
But don't have the expectation that that's going to put you somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, don't have the expectation of that you're going to live this great lifestyle if that's going to be what you're willing to put into it.
Sure.
So I think there's a big disconnect there.
It's a race to the bottom, but who the hell wants to talk about a race to the bottom? I mean, for me, inspirational wise, I don't view people in any way, shape, or fashion that don't choose the path that I do. It's something that almost I didn't have a choice. So I wonder if, the wiring is there that they don't have a choice for what they do. I don't know. I don't try to understand people anymore because when it comes down to it, the fact of the matter is, we can go ahead and sit there and try to prognosticate and forecast and talk about India's economy and this and that, but I don't think it's India's economy. I look at it as one company. What is that one person, that one founder? What are they trying to do? Because it's from that person's DNA that everything else is going to sprout out from. It's from that person's belief structure and philosophy that everything else is going to spring up from. It's from that person's efforts and their outbound that everything else is going to spring up around. So yes, I get all these sub workers and employees and everything else, but the fact of the matter is, it's the people or person that started the company that, to me, that's the altar that I worship at, is the people that start things. Because to me, that's the progress of humanity. Everybody else can go enjoy their TikTok and everything else that they wish. So.
No, I agree. I'm much more on let's not. I wouldn't get behind mandating a 70-hour work week, but what I would get behind is that company that says, you know what, we're going to get out there and we're going to kick some butt and we're going to do this. You guys on board? I'm going to do it. You guys going to do it? We're all going to do this. And they become the standard, and that shows. Now somebody's going to want to be able to beat or meet that standard, so they're going to learn from them and do the same things. And that's
it's called
the acceptable
competition, and who wins? I mean, the customer wins, the people win, everybody wins because it makes things better.
It's like anything in the product market. You take electric vehicles, for instance, I don't think it takes the government to mandate it that it needs to be these. Listen, if it's a viable product and it's better than what's available, people will buy it, and they will buy it for a lot more, and then it will grow and it will eventually eat the rest of the market. But as you can see, that's not happening that quickly.
Absolutely. So some things have a higher barrier to entry. Some things have an elasticity of demand. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if gasoline was $100 a gallon, well, guess what? Then that stuff would maybe be looking a lot better. But it doesn't, so people don't want it.
Yep, that's right. Cool. All right. Manny, you got anything from the other segment you want to chat with Chris about?
I thought we were going to talk about cricket. I have a whole screen on my computer.
Oh, we are. That's the next segment. Oh, we are going to talk about cricket. You know about cricket?
I don't know a damn thing about it, but I know that
me neither, but I'm learning.
Has won 5 in a row.
Yeah. All right, let's talk cricket then. Let's talk sports. Before we get to cricket, what's your sport of choice, Chris?
Honestly, weightlifting. That's what my background is, just weightlifting. It's boring stuff. Just lift a hell of a lot of weight. That's what I do.
So do you do bodybuilding, or have you ever done shows and stuff?
It was basically bodybuilding, primarily.
Yeah.
But right now it's just getting the kids a good base of weight training, solid, so they can do anything they want.
Yeah, very cool. I tried to get when Manny and I first went into business together. I tried to get him. We were like, let's go to the gym because we didn't have a lot of work to do yet. We were working, but we had to get away from the office, go to the gym, and I had just started to train for my first Spartan race. And
I did that in South Carolina in their first or second year, and I ran through primordial ooze. I finished in the top 1%. When I was
That's nice.
40 something. Yeah, I can't remember what the hell it was. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've only done it that one time, but I was like, I want to do it. I want it to be a super, so it was between 9 and 11 miles.
Yep, that's what.
And I I committed 6 months beforehand. I signed up for it, paid for it. I had a coach who was telling me, you got to commit or you're going to back out. So I committed. I found a training program, and in that program was, there was a lot of lifting, but there was some track work and stuff. So I had to meet me at the track one day, and we were like running laps, and I brought some weights and dumbbells and barbells out there, and we were doing in between things to simulate the different things you have to do in the race. And man, he never trained with me again.
Listen,
we had to do
I remember going to the Spartan, and at the beginning of the race, there were these people wearing the Vibram shoes when they first came out with the toes.
Oh yeah.
And a half a mile in, they all dropped out just because of the terrain we were over. And my friend of mine, who we ended up training and doing it together, we just looked at each other and started cracking up because they were all falling off like dead flies. It was crazy.
Yeah, because you're not running on a flat surface at all, ever.
Not at all.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get him to do the Spartan race with me, but he trained a little bit, but then he broke out and he wouldn't. Yeah. He's like,
I find that if you put a couple 100 pounds above your body in any way, shape, or fashion at 5 a.m. every morning, it kind of makes the rest of the day a hell of a lot
easier.
Hell of a lot easier.
Yep. Okay. So let's get into cricket. So what's going on this weekend? Is India playing this weekend? We've been following.
Oh yeah. The Cricket World Cup is now about to end. So most probably by November 19th, I believe that's when the finals are. So all teams have almost played like 8 out of their 9 league matches. But the top 4, 3 are decided. The 4th one is, still in a limbo, how the other countries perform, how the other teams perform, that will decide between 3 teams, I think. So right now in the top 3 are India, New Zealand and Australia. The team who won the World Cup last time, 4 years ago, they are at the bottom of the...
Who was it last time?
It was England.
England won, but they're terrible now?
Yeah. I made a prediction, at the start of this World Cup that England will be the top 4 contenders. But surprisingly, they are at the bottom of it. India is doing pretty well. I never imagined that India will do this well. They have won all their league matches and they will have their last match most probably tomorrow. And it's so far, it's kind of boring, India is winning all their matches so easily. It's like, You were
saying you want them to experience a loss here so that they...
I don't like this, they are winning all their matches and suddenly, they will lose their final match. No, I don't want that. So, at least one of their league matches, I want them to lose. They will still be at the top of the table. So, yeah.
Wow. They have a lot more points than anyone else. I'm looking at the screen right now. So the closest is 12 and they've got 16. That's substantial.
Yeah, that's substantial. They have won all their matches and that too pretty convincingly. They dominated every, cricket playing nation in this World Cup.
Okay,
every
so
cricket playing nation.
Is there any drama going on with the team or anything like that? Or?
Oh yeah, other teams, especially Pakistan, our arch rival, the people in that country, they're saying whenever India is bowling, the umpires, the ICC, which is the International Cricket Council, they are giving them a different ball because their balls are swinging so much, they cannot believe that.
Oh, okay. So they're cheating.
Yeah, that's what, losers, losers will always, find ways.
But is that really cheating? Come on. That's not
It's skill, this time we have a really good team.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly balanced team. We have great batsmen, in your baseball terminology, they are great hitters, great pitchers, which are like bowlers, and then we have great fielders. So it's a perfectly balanced team. So far, they have won all their match, so it looks like a perfectly balanced team. Yeah.
Well, we're going to celebrate when they win, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think you should celebrate even if they don't win.
Oh yeah, I think so too. We should just...
for us, every country has an arch rival in game. In your ice hockey, you have Canada, I guess, right?
I guess. I don't pay
Yeah. So, in cricket, India's arch rival is Pakistan. And personally, I would say 90% of the Indians say that, if India has won against Pakistan, we have won the World Cup.
That's all you need.
It doesn't matter Pakistan. If they lose all their matches, rest of the matches. Yeah, we just want to have to win,
that game.
And since the last 8 World Cups, we have not lost even a single, match in the World Cup to Pakistan.
Pakistan, there you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not much of a rival if they never beat you.
No, I mean, their record, apart from the World Cup, is pretty good against us.
Yeah.
But only in the World Cup, they have never been able to beat us. Even at, the time when they won the World Cup. The only match they lost was to us.
Yeah.
So, basically, they won the World Cup, but we won the World Cup before them.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's it over?
No. I think it's November 19th. That's when the final is happening. Yeah.
So you don't play many sports. That's okay, but you
wait. I'm in Philadelphia, and I married an Irish redhead from here. So I'm in a sports family. That's kind of
okay. So you're in a sports family. So tell me about this. The outside of lifting, what are the other folks in the family like?
They've got season seats at the Phillies, of course, every damn year.
Phillies. Yeah.
But I mean, you don't go even say that you like any other football team other than the Eagles. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. I'm trying to get a Phillies hat, actually, a fitted Phillies maroon. I want the maroon hat with the 80s P logo.
Yeah.
A little 80 with the ball. It's hard. You can't find a maroon Phillies hat online. My wife's been looking. She says I shouldn't go try to buy it because she's going to find it for me. But I just like the look of it. I kind of collect those MLB hats. But yeah, see, I'm a Cowboys fan. I grew up in Texas. So, I only dislike the Eagles when we play them. That's how I am with most teams.
So you really loved them last weekend, huh?
Yeah, man. Hey, it was a competitive game. I was worried it was going to turn into a track race, a track meet, and we weren't going to be running in the meet. So, but it was competitive. So, it might go different when they come to Dallas. Who knows?
Well, Eagles fans say there's nothing like beating Dallas.
That's what everybody says, Chris. That's what the Packer fans say here
America's
in Wisconsin.
team, huh?
That's what everybody says. Everybody gets their Super Bowl when they play Dallas because as long as they win, they're happy.
That's pretty arrogant, Brian. That's like a Dallas fan typically.
Well, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like because I've never met someone where I've been like, "Hey, I'm a Cowboys fan," and they'd be like, "Oh, that's cool." Usually, it's like, "Oh, not the Cowboys. How could you like the Cowboys?" And I've got to defend it and say, "Hey, I was born in Texas." It's kind of like what you got to do is either them or the Oilers in the 80s.
Exactly.
And no, and they're not even around anymore. So. Yeah, everybody, no one ever feels like, oh, okay, like someone could say, I'm a KC fan. I like the Chiefs, or I like the Vikings, or I like the Bears, or I like the Eagles. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
So
it's great.
In this American football, which are the most famous teams, top 4, famous teams.
The most valuable team is the Cowboys. If you come to value, it's the most valuable team when it comes to financial value is the Cowboys. But I don't, it's hard to, it's really, I think there's been some studies when it comes who's got the most spread out fans. I think Dallas is there, but Green Bay is actually one of them, believe it or not. I think it's because all the people that get old and leave Green Bay, they all go to Florida and they all go to the warm cities and they're still Packer fans. You can probably find a Packer bar in almost every city in the country. That's how the Packers are.
No, the reason I'm asking because, in baseball, all over the world, people know about, New York Jets or Yankees,
Yankees.
Yankees, they know all about. So in American football, which is the most famous team of top 4, famous teams of all time.
Okay, go ahead, Chris, tell them.
Well, it depends on your definition. You're going to say New England and recently, or are you going to say Dallas? I mean, it's really one or the other. I'd say Dallas.
Yeah.
So Dallas is the top.
You know what it was? It's not necessarily they've been a successful team over the years. They've been terrible the last 20 years or more, but it's all marketing. It's all sales and marketing. When that team was built, Tex Schramm and then all those guys, they just went nuts and they called it America's team. They weren't America's team because everybody called them. It was all marketing. They got it's probably more from the cheerleaders than the football players, back in the 60s and 70s, but it was all spin, all marketing. That's how they became.
But Brian, who has the best fans? Notice I didn't say rudest fans, Brian.
It's probably not. Yeah, it's probably not us. It's probably not us. But it's hard for I would say, because I've experienced it, I've never been to a Phillies game in Philly, but growing up being in the last 20 plus years in the Wisconsin area, Packer fans are bonkers, man. They're not violent.
Have you ever been up to Green Bay?
They're not violent bonkers. I have never come across a group of people, professional, collegiate, and college fans get crazy too. They build their whole life. I've never come across a group of people outside of Packer fans that literally build their whole life around the team. Everything is predicated on Packers.
Really?
Do they have a jail in their stadium?
That's the violent part. Like, I don't think any Packer fans ever beat up Santa Claus. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, it always comes down to throwing snowballs at Santa.
Santa.
So, Chris, do they have a jail in, like in Philly stadiums?
Well, I can't remember if it was in the old.
I think a lot of
stadium.
stadiums actually have holding pens for crazy people.
Okay.
Phillies fans are notorious for being, not too welcoming to the other teams. They're pretty brutal. So
That's the city of brotherly love right there.
Yeah.
As long as you like their teams.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no option. You have to like their teams.
Right? So, no, that's cool. You're our second guest from Philly.
Corinne,
Yeah, she was from Philly. She was a great guest too. She was a IP lawyer. So information property, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
NIL, all that stuff going on with name, image, likeness, that kind of stuff.
No doubt.
She was really cool. All right, I think we're going to wrap things up here. We're just over an hour. This has been a great show. This might have been my favorite. My heart rate got probably the highest. I'm probably the most motivated to get up off my keister and get after it.
Life is short, my friend. Life is short.
Yeah. All right, bud. We're already on Gusher on our computer, so we're just going to create some accounts and get rolling.
Yeah, I'm happy to help you in any way. Reach out if you need anything, but we're going to be proactive if you're there. So we reach out anyway.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Maybe, down the road we'll have you on again sometime, and we'll talk next level stuff.
Sounds good. Nice meeting you guys.
Sounds good. Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.